Hey everybody, welcome back. It's good to see you all. This is 10 games to add to the Spectrum as chosen from the comments. So you can't blame me for this list. This is all down to you guys. Well, I guess you can blame me for part of it because I'm the one that's collated them from the comments. I haven't gone over it scientifically like I said in the last video. It's not like I've written every game down and counted. You know, I've just looked through like a bunch of comments that I've had over the various forums and just, you know, pick the ones that appear the most times. You know the format of these by now. I'll show you the list of games at the end. Obviously I'll give you my opinions. Some of these games I haven't actually played before, so obviously, well, I think there's a couple that I haven't played before, so obviously I won't be able to give a personal opinion on those, but I've written a little script out, you know, with some of the reviews, so I can talk about them anyway in case, you know, you've never played them before. So without further ado, no waffling from me, let's get straight on with it and we'll talk about the first game. Okay, first up we have Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge, released in 1990 for £10.99. It scored 90% in Crash and also in your Sinclair. This is the blurb. It says Gremlin graphics invite you to jump into the driver's seat of a Lotus Turbo Esprit and race through 32 stomach churning courses, including 7 easy, 10 medium and 15 hard, to try and qualify for the coveted Lotus license. In fact, at the time this prize was real. If you beat the game, you were given some code numbers and you had to write them on a form, including the box, send it off to Gremlin, and you received your prize. It's always nice when they include something that's like a real prize, isn't it? I don't know how many of you may have got one in the comments. Let me know if you did. That would be fantastic. I don't think I would have ever done. I'm not very good at driving games, and if you had to complete 15 hard courses, that would rule me out pretty much, I'm sure of that. But yeah, it's a fun game. I have played a little bit of this. Again, this is a game I've played on a different system. You're going to find that with a few of these, that I played them on different systems. I played this on the Commodore Amiga, so you know, not played the Spectrum version as much. Sorry, I have played it because I played it for the video purposes, and it was very fast paced. You can play as 2-player split screen as well, which I didn't do in the game that I played. Yeah, I didn't do that because there's only me here, so that would have been a bit interesting. I don't think I'll get my cat to play player 2, so it's just me here. But yeah, the 2-player is a lot of fun. I have played that on the Amiga version. Yeah, on the Spectrum version, the one thing I would say, which is one of the criticisms I read from the magazine, is that it's quite hard to tell your cars apart because all the models of car look the same. Well, I guess obviously they didn't have many colours to work with, so you know it might be quite difficult to put different colour cars in. Again, that may slow the game up. Apparently as well, the magazine review I was reading of this game, the 2-player game is significantly slower than the 1-player game. I don't know, you can tell me on that one because I haven't played the 2-player version, so let me know in the comments if you agree with that. But all the same, it's a fun and fast-paced racing game, and it's definitely worth adding to the Spectrum. Okay, coming in at number 2 is Carrier Command, released in 1989 for £14.95. Wowzers. It scored 97% in Crash and 94% in your Sinclair. That's some big scores. This is a game that I haven't played, so I have no prior knowledge of this one. I told you there'd be a few on this list. This was made for the 128k Specky, and it's a huge game, apparently. Is it a strategy game? Is it a simulation? Is it a shoot 'em up? The answer to all 3 questions is yes. You're in charge of the ACC Epsilon and all its onboard craft. Your mission is to gain control of all 32 islands in the archipelago and ultimately destroy the rogue aircraft carrier, the Omega, which has been reprogrammed by the evil Stanza organization. Now, according to the magazines, Carrier Command is one of the biggest strategy shoot-em-ups to ever appear on the ZX Spectrum. And yeah, going back over time, I had never played this sort of game, so this is not something I grew up with. Obviously, I've had a little bit of time on it while I've been recording the video, and it's good fun. It's just obviously I've barely scratched the surface. This is such a big game, such a lot to do, that obviously I'd have to sit down and probably play this, you know, a lot more to appreciate it for what it is. But certainly I can see the potential in this one, and a lot of you did vote for this game, so yeah, hats off to you. It's probably back in the day wasn't the sort of thing I was playing on the ZX Spectrum, but I think it's the sort of thing, I think it's a more grown-up game for me, so I'll be playing a lot more of it now. You know, I can appreciate it a little bit more. Back in the day, I was more about like sports games and also like games like Target Renegade, Manic Miner, that sort of thing. Probably not games where I had to sit down and read an instruction manual, which I feel this game probably is because it's quite complex, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game at all. It's just like for when I had a ZX Spectrum and the age I was, this sort of game was probably not for me, but certainly now I'm at the stage of life where I can appreciate something like this. It looks a lot of fun, and I'll definitely be deep diving in this once I get my Spectrum. Okay, moving on, we have Raid Over Moscow, released in 1985 for £9.95, scoring 92% in Crash and 5 out of 5 in Your Sinclair. Now this is a game I'm very familiar with, however not on the ZX Spectrum. I had this on Commodore 64 and played the heck out of it. I absolutely loved Raid Over Moscow, despite the first level being one of the most frustrating things you could ever play sometimes, when you had to take the planes off out of the hangar and try and get them through. It was like the equivalent of how many lives you had going forwards. Now, as many planes as you could get out of the hangar, that was kind of how many lives you got. Every time one of your planes got destroyed, you moved on to the next one. So it was, a frustrating start to a game, to be fair. It's very hard to control sometimes, but still a fun game. So that says it all, really. The plot is a preemptive missile strike has been launched by Russia, and you're charged with leading your airborne commando to take down the missile launch sites and then on to Moscow to destroy the Soviet Defense Center. So that's Raid Over Moscow's plot in a nutshell. Played over 7 different style sections, including one that looks a bit like Zaxxon, if you've ever played that game, that arcade classic. It's fast-paced action game, and it's a lot of fun to play. And there's a little bit of difference in the stages. You know, you're controlling a man outside of a plane on a couple of stages, but also there's a very weird one that kind of resembles Tron as well, the disc part in Tron. You'll know it if you ever got there before. But all in all, fun game, really good. It was billed as kind of like the follow-up to Beachhead, or Beachhead 2, I guess, because there were 2 Beachheads, but it kind of wasn't really. But I think it was made by the same people. Like I said, I haven't played the Spectrum version before, but if it's anything like the Commodore 64 version, and I'm assuming it is because a lot of people voted for this, then it's going to be fun, and I can't wait to have more of a play. I did a few levels, obviously, for the video, as you can see, so I did quite well, actually, considering I haven't played it for years. Obviously, that was just playing it for a short video. I haven't played anywhere near as much of this as I did on the Commodore 64. Alright, number 4 on this 10 game list is Everyone's a Wally, released in 1985 for £9.95, scored 93% in Crash and 9 out of 10 in CMVG. Everyone's a Wally is the sequel to Pyjamarama. There were a number of Wally Week games. Microgen claimed at the time that this was the first arcade adventure game to feature multiple playable characters. You can play as Wally, his wife Wilma, a mechanic, a plumber, and an electrician, named Tom, Dick and Harry, respectively. Wally's baby Herbert is also in the game, but he's an NPC. The aim of the game is to collect all of the code letters required to crack the safe at the bank and pay the gang. Each member of the gang is capable of performing different tasks, and they must be performed by the right person with the right tool for the job. It's an early puzzle solving game. You know, you get those games, don't you, like in say like a Resident Evil, where you've got puzzles to solve, certain tools will solve the puzzle, etc, etc. You know, we've all played games like that before. It's just in case you have never played it before. Everyone's a Wally is a fun game, a lot of sense of humour about it as well. And there's a fun fact for you here. The song Everyone's a Wally by singer and actor Mike Berry, who you might know from Are You Being Served, amongst other things. He was also in Wurzel Gummidge, apparently. It was included on the B-side of the cassette tape of this. I can't actually remember if I've listened to it, apart from obviously hearing the music within the game, but I can't remember back then whether I listened to it, because I didn't know much about who Mike Berry was. So to be honest, I didn't even know until I read it that the song was included. It was probably all over the packaging, but you know, when you're like a kid, and 1985 I was 11, not really interested in that sort of thing, just interested in the game. But yeah, a little bit of fun fact, I thought I'd share it with you guys. You might already know, you probably do. But yeah, this game's very fun. It would have appeared on a list of mine eventually, I'm sure, but you guys got to it first, and there were so many people clamoring for this one. Some people just said they wanted a Wally Week game, so you know, it was included in that. Definitely, I'd say if you haven't played this one before, it's definitely a lot of fun, so do add it to your Spectrum. Next is a game called Amarro, released in 1987 for £2.99, scored 7.5 out of 10 in CMVG and 92% in Crash. Amarro uses 3D isometric graphics to depict a vast and futuristic city. It's divided into 25 sectors, and each one has been overrun by insect colonies. Your mission, using an armoured vehicle called the Arachnus 4, is to destroy the aforementioned colonies of insects and leave at least 60% of the city intact. That will progress you to the next sector. The colonies are made up of 4 types of insects, each with their own characteristics: the Queen, drones, scouts and rogues. And needless to say, your main focus should be on the Queen, as she's the only unit that cannot be replaced. She's also responsible for making new insects while she's alive. Now this was a fun game, and at the time, very good value. I mean, only £2.99, it's an absolute bargain. It's one of Mastertronic's games, and very, very good. They made a lot of good games. This one is an absorbing game, very good graphics, and animations were really good too. I had a lot of fun playing this. I remember playing this when I was a kid. Vague memories, not too many like full blown, not like, you know, memories of playing Manic Miner and stuff like that, but certainly do have memories of playing this. It was fun to revisit, and I'm looking forward to actually playing a bit more of this. Obviously, I didn't play too much while I was making the video. I never do, obviously, because I have a lot of work to do on these videos. They take a while. But also, I don't want to play a lot of Spectrum games. Like, you know, at the moment, I'm waiting for the Spectrum to come out so I can add them all and then play them to death on there. So at the moment, it's quite, you know, I get into a game when I'm recording and I'm a bit like, I want to keep playing that, but I also want to wait until November. So it's a bit of a catch-22. Although, to be fair, that I'm probably going to add thousands of games to the Spectrum. So it's like, you know, that's probably going to keep me going a long time, but still, fun game, definitely. If you haven't played it, I say it's well worth checking out, and thank you for reminding me of this game. I did remember it, but you know, it was nice to get a little prod to say, yeah, this should be on here for sure, and a lot of you did vote for this one. Number 6 of the 10 is Rebel Star, released in 1986 for £1.99. That's a bargain if ever I've seen one. Scored 5 out of 5 in Sinclair user and 93% in Crash. Rebel Star Raiders was published in 1984 by Red Shift for the ZX Spectrum. It was reworked in machine code as Rebel Star and published by Firebird in 1986. Rebel Star is another strategy game from the legendary Julian Gollop of XCOM fame. This can be played as a single player game versus a computer or as a 2-player game, which I'm sure many of you did back when you played it. Again, we talked about Laser Squad on the last video. These were not games that I played when I was a child. They were too much for me, you know. I needed simpler games, but you know, I've since got into XCOM massively and games like this, so these are games I'm definitely going to be revisiting. Obviously, for purposes of the video, I played some, but I can't claim to be an expert on this one at all. This was voted for by you guys, and I'm glad, because it's been brilliant. That's the best thing about doing these videos, is finding out about games that, you know, when you were a kid probably weren't for you, but now you can deep dive and get into, you know, and I'm really looking forward to it, particularly as I'm such a huge fan of XCOM. I'm not going to tell you too much you don't already know on how to play these games. I mean, so many people voted for this one, it's ridiculous. So I'm sure you all know how to play it. There's one scenario included in this game, but it's a large one. But needless to say, this game does not disappoint. What I've played of it so far, I absolutely love, and I'm going to be going back to it for sure. It's definitely going on my Spectrum. Anything to do with Julian Gollop basically is going on my Spectrum. I've already made that decision. Thank you again for mentioning these games. Like I said, it's great to hear about them in the comments. It's particularly when you're not aware of these brilliant games, and it's not surprising. There were a lot of games released for the ZX Spectrum, so I guess you're going to miss some of them over the course of your life. I'd say this game was obviously an absolute bargain back in the day, and it's an absolute no-brainer to be putting on the Spectrum. Number 7 is Cookie, released in 1983 for £5.50. I can only find a couple of reviews for this game, which is a bit strange. It scored 5 out of 5 in Personal Computer News and also in Home Computing Weekly. 2 magazines I can say I'm not very familiar with personally, but they must have their fans out there, I'm sure. I just wasn't one of them. Anyway, I'm going to have fun reading the description on this game, so bear with it. It's like reading some kind of wacky movie plot, this one. You play as Charlie the chef, who has the unenviable task of baking a cake using a bunch of very intimidating and hostile ingredients, including mixed peel, chunky chocolate, crafty cheese, sneaky sugar, and kernel custard. Where did they think of all those names? That's crazy. They do not want to cooperate and get quietly in his mixing bowl, so you have to persuade them in by throwing bags of flour at them. Personally speaking, this sounds like a Gordon Ramsay nightmare or something in this game. But it is fun. I remember playing this back in the day. I was a massive fan of Mr. Wimpy. I don't know if you've ever played that game on the Commodore 64. So I was kind of into like these little food-based games. This isn't the same as Mr. Wimpy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not saying that, but it was fun like that game was. It's fast-moving, and from what I can remember, quite a difficult game. But definitely you can see the sense of humour there with the names of the characters. It's good fun, this game. And yeah, I would say if you have never played this before, you've definitely got to give it a try. It's hard to give it a definition, really. You know, you can't say it's like a platformer or something like that, because you know, there's not many games out there where you're a chef running around avoiding like hostile ingredients and throwing bags of flour at them. So this could be a genre all of its own. But Cookie is fun, and definitely I would consider adding this to your Spectrum. This is a good choice. Well done on this one. Next up, we have Treasure Island Dizzy, released in 1989 for £2.99, scoring 87% in Crash and 8 out of 10 in Your Sinclair. This is the second game in the much loved Dizzy series. In case you've been living under a rock, Dizzy is an egg with arms and legs, basically. My confession is I've never actually played a Dizzy game. Well, I played a bit of this one, obviously, for the video, but yeah, I have no prior knowledge whatsoever on the Dizzy games. I know it's a shock because I know there was a lot of them, but I just never played them when I was younger. And so I'm going into these blind, but I know a lot of people like them. In fact, on the voting system, it was basically most people were saying they wanted one of the Dizzy series. So I picked Treasure Island Dizzy purely because a few people individually asked for Treasure Island Dizzy, whereas most people were asking for the Dizzy series. So, you know, that's why Treasure Island Dizzy got chosen. I have no prior knowledge to whether this is the best Dizzy game. It probably isn't, to be honest with you. I don't know. Although obviously for the 2 people or 3 people, however many it was that voted for this one, you probably think it is. But yeah, I couldn't possibly judge. You know, I'm terrible with these games, and I know they're legendary games for the ZX Spectrum. It's just I never got around to playing them. That's just pure and simple. So what's this one about then? Well, Dizzy apparently has booked himself on a round the world cruise, but runs into a spot of bother with the captain, namely Long John Silver, and now he's marooned on an island. And apparently there are 2 ways to complete this game. You collect all the gold coins, or you find some alternative way off the island. The one thing I can't believe about this game, what I've read, so I don't know whether this is true, I didn't actually run into a problem with it when I was recording the video, is that you have to do all this with just 1 life. Let me know in the comments if that is true, because that sounds particularly hard. But I guess on the Spectrum now we have unlimited saves and we have rewinds, I guess, so you know you could probably breeze through this game under those circumstances, but that must have been a hard one to play back in the day. But I do look forward to playing the Dizzy games. I had a bit of fun when I was playing this for the video, so I can see why people like these games. Just never got into them myself. I'm not judging, and under any circumstances I will delve into them over time on the Spectrum, and maybe I'll even do a playthrough, mate, because it'll be my first time playing the Dizzy games. Maybe I'll do a series where I play all the Dizzy games for you. How about that? There's a trade-off for you. But yeah, this is number 8 on the list, and yeah, it's a good choice. I know there are a lot of Dizzy fans out there, so I had to put one on for you guys. Okay, next is a game I recognise as a classic, just not a ZX Spectrum classic for me. Bruce Lee, released in 1985 for £7.99, scoring 91% in Crash and 9 out of 10 in CMVG. Let me explain what I just said a minute ago. I owned this game on Commodore 64, got it first on a Commodore 64, played the heck out of it on the Commodore 64. So it's never a game that I felt the need to play on the ZX Spectrum, and I felt like I'd played the definitive version of it at the time, so I've never played it on the Spectrum until obviously I was recording this video. But I can see the quality, it still reminds me so much of the Commodore 64 version, slightly less better looking, but other than that, that's the only difference really. And it's a great game, and I know how great Bruce Lee is. I guess it just didn't tie in with my ZX Spectrum childhood memories as such, because it just reminded me more of the Commodore 64, if I'm honest. If anyone hasn't played it, it's a karate-based platform game, basically, featuring Kung Fu legend Bruce Lee, and it sounds like a dream come true, doesn't it? This game certainly lives up to the billing. It's a classic, definitely a classic. Well, I'm looking forward to playing it on the Spectrum. Like I said, you know, it's going to be like playing the same game but different, obviously, you know, for me, because I'm so used to the Commodore 64 version. I've got a feeling it's going to be brilliant, and I'm going to have a blast playing it. For anyone who doesn't know the plot of the game, I don't really know the plot either, to be honest, and I've played it a million times. Bruce must avoid 2 enemies on each level, a mysterious ninja and a sumo wrestler looking dude named the Green Yarmo, which always used to crack me up, that name. There was a song, I think, by Michael McDonald called Yarmo Be There or something when this game came out in the 80s. So it always used to remind me of that song every time I heard the Green Yarmo name. That was just a little fun thing I used to remember when I was a kid. This is a fun and clever little platformer with Kung Fu combat. What more could you want? An absolute classic of its time and definitely worthy of a place on the Spectrum. And finally, the last game on this list, number 10, Operation Wolf, released in 1988 for £8.95, scored 91% in Crash and 9 out of 10 in Your Sinclair. This game was based on the coin-op of the same name, where you play as a lone wolf, a typical He-Man, Arnold Schwarzenegger looking character who's parachuted into enemy territory with the sole purpose of blowing everyone and everything away. There are 6 levels in the game, namely the communications setup, jungle, village, powder magazine, concentration camp and airport. You move a cursor around the screen in first person kind of view, blasting away with your Uzi at enemy soldiers, vehicles. You could also press a space bar to lob a grenade, I seem to recall, and you could shoot animals, which I don't endorse, but there you go. Shoot animals for food to boost energy, but you've also got to avoid shooting nurses or children, as they will drain your health. So there you go. There's a policy for you. Whatever you do, shoot animals to gain health, but don't shoot women or children. It's like, maybe don't try shooting any of those things, but there you go. Needless to say, this game is very, very fast paced and looks great on the Spectrum, to be honest with you. I played the coin-op quite a few times. Used to get an Uzi in the arcade. Obviously you don't get one on the ZX Spectrum. You've got to make do with your controller for that, or the keyboard. But yeah, the coin-op game was great, and it's the sort of game you'd think, well, they couldn't possibly produce that on the Spectrum, could they? But yeah, they did a very good job with this one. This would have been on, again, one of my lists eventually down the line. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed playing it. These type of games are not typically what I play, so, you know, maybe this is the reason why I haven't put it on any of my lists yet. That's not to say that I don't enjoy it when I play it. I love Time Crisis on the PS1, and that was a blast, although obviously you got a gun with that, which was absolutely brilliant. But those sort of games, it's the kind of game that's similar, you know, if you play it in the arcades, but obviously not quite as similar if you're playing it on the ZX Spectrum. But yeah, an absolute blast, Operation Wolf, really good. And yeah, I'd say that's a really good pick. So well done. Congratulations. I really like that game, and I'm definitely going to be adding it to my Spectrum, so I suggest you do the same. Well, I don't even need to, do I? Because you suggested it to me in the comments, so there you go. Okay, there you have it. There are your 10 games to add to the Spectrum as chosen by you guys in the comments. We have Lotus Esprit, Turbo Challenge, Carrier Command, Raid Over Moscow, Everyone's a Wally, Amarro, Rebel Star, Cookie, Treasure Island Dizzy, Bruce Lee and Operation Wolf. It's a good list, very good list. I've decided with this, by the way, not to do 20. The reason I decided not to do 20 was because I felt like the videos were getting a bit long. I mean, even when I do my own ones now, I might cut them down to 10. I just think for time purposes, it's better. I mean, I can still, I'll probably still have a list of about 20 myself and break it down into a couple of different videos. What I'm going to do with you guys is we'll do this as part 1 from the comments. Once I've released a couple more videos of my games, maybe we'll have another roundup, because I'm sure people will be suggesting games all the way through that they're going to add, probably games I missed too, maybe some games I've never played before. So it's a good way to get them included in the videos as well, because I trust you guys, and obviously when I've gone through this list, most of these games are scored very highly. So yeah, I do trust you guys' opinions, and it's nice for you to be included as well. Obviously I don't include everyone by name, but you know if you've suggested these games, you'll know if your game's been included basically. And you'll know if your favourites are in there, won't you? So there we have it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, apologies for the delay getting this up, but yeah, I've not been too well. Currently recording on a bunch of antibiotics. I'm actually on 16 tablets a day right now, which is marvellous to be in that kind of health, isn't it? I'm hoping that, you know, once I've finished the course of these though, hopefully a few of my problems might clear up, and then I'll take it from there. But you don't really need to know this, obviously. I'm just kind of letting you know why it was delayed, if anything else. So. But thank you for the few people that have sent me well wishes. I do appreciate that. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care, and I'll try and get another video up soon. Bye for now.